quote, put on your big boy pants and tell us who the pedophiles are. I know you know who said that. I know Angelo does. It was Kash Patel. And my question about how big a gigabyte is also sourced to Kash Patel. I was talking about gigabytes in an appearance with Joe Rogan. The vast amount of material inside the files, and that they answer the question, quote, tell us who the pedophiles are. He was speaking to the House Republicans. Our source on that is Kash Patel, who has more information now. What is your sense of how he's managed to disappear?
That's a very good question. I mean, Kash Patel, well, you know, the FBI does run the witness protection program.
Maybe he and Dan Bongino are in it.
He and Dan Bongino feel like, hey, this could be some useful technology for us right now. He's going to the witness. He's probably like living in Arizona someplace. It's still like
they always go to Arizona.
In Tempe, next to Henry Hill from Goodfellas. I can't help but think about this Trump saying this is now a dead issue. I'm sorry. I don't know where those guys are. They are clearly like laying low. The dead issue thing just made me think, as we sit here on the eve of the release of the Spinal Tap sequel, it reminds me of another movie by that great director, Rob Reiner, The Princess Bride, where Miracle Max, played by Billy Crystal, says that Prince Wesley, he might look dead, but he's not dead. He's only mostly dead, which means he's slightly alive. I think this story is definitely in the category.
Oh, I love that. That's good.
It's not dead. Yeah. This story is slightly alive. And this gets to the point you're making, which is, man, there is so... This is a small thing. You know, we didn't learn that much yesterday. These are real things. They're important. No one in their right mind who has looked at the historical record, a public record, doesn't already know that Donald Trump had a very close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein for a very long time, and that they said a lot of scummy stuff to each other. There's just, you look at the pictures speak 1,000 words of them, the way they're leering at these women on the dance floor, all of that stuff. Do we learn anything hugely important? No. What we learned mostly is that there's probably a lot more where that came from. These things that no one's expecting, the things that, you know, you suddenly see that picture of this guy, Joel Pashkow, who provided this thing that comes out of the Epstein's. There's like a lot of leads out there that haven't been followed. That guy should be getting a subpoena pretty quick, right? Joel Pashkow, let's get him in front of the Oversight Committee and find out what he meant when he wrote fully depreciated about this woman. Let's find out what the actual story was behind that. This is the most obvious thing in the world. If you're an investigator working for anybody on the House Oversight Committee, he's got to be now right at the top of your list. But the point is that every time a new piece of evidence comes out, there are, as every lawyer will tell you, there's 10 leads to follow, and there's more depth and contour to the picture that's emerging. Not that anything's like, oh my God, what, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, you know, likes young women. They boasted about how they liked young women. And, you know, there's this, all that stuff is out there. What there is a deepening evidentiary record, greater kind of nuance and subtlety and texture to the record, and a lot of a gathering sense that, far from being not only not dead or only slightly alive, but this story is, if you care about its appropriate disposition, the story is more alive today than it's ever been, in the sense that there are more leads to follow that have not yet been followed, that we don't even know about.
Yeah, and I guess I don't think you even have to care about it. I mean, Angela, you taught me this term narrative dominance, which I've been obsessed with ever since you introduced it into my brainwaves. 81% of Americans think Donald Trump is hiding something when it comes to the Epstein files. You don't even have to be tracking this story carefully or listening to Joe Rogan or consuming sort of conspiracy adjacent content to think that Donald Trump is involved in a massive cover-up. And so the Wall Street Journal's trailblazing on this story and the subsequent defamation suit, which to me now seems totally moot. The book is out. Republicans and Democrats can hold it and touch it and see it. Seems to fuel the thing that 81% of Americans now believe in their bones, that, quote, Donald Trump is covering up something about the Epstein files. There will be other fights. There will be other battles and maybe even the war that he'll win. But this battle has been waged for public opinion. It's month 7. Kash Patel's the source on Joe Rogan, telling us about gigabytes of information, saying, quote, House Republicans, put on your big boy pants and tell us who the pedophiles are. The questions were asked by the MAGA Republicans, and now 81% of Americans believe those same MAGA Republicans, including Donald Trump, are hiding the answers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I mean, it's ultimately it's the narrative, it's the story. These little side threads that come up, the day-to-day details, oftentimes that gets lost on people, and that's okay. I mean, ultimately, what you remember is sort of the big picture, the big arc, the story. And the story seems to track with what people already have an intuitive sense of belief. I mean, it's not like these things happen in a vacuum either. I mean, the Catholic Church sex scandal, simmered and brewed for a while, was described as an open secret for so long, and finally one day it changed. And people are aware of these things. There is this perception and feeling that people in power do bad things, they get away with it, and other people in power help them get away with it and cover it up. I mean, that is a story that is deeply American and not just unique to us. It's part of history. It aligns with people's understanding. And so the moment we're in right now is sort of this weird quantum state, because when Trump describes it as a dead issue, and I love John's description as sort of like semi-alive, in some ways he's not wrong. It is still simmering. The embers are still there. He has successfully brought a whole bunch of people to heel. People like Laura Loomer and, who were out there for weeks and months even after this initially broke, have gone quiet. They're radio silent on this. They've said the ends justify the means. I will participate, or I will help enable all of this sexual misconduct, all of this sexual abuse, because it's for the greater good for Donald Trump. They've gotten in line. Laura Ingraham, Fox News, they've gotten in line. They've stopped talking about it. But as you know, it's already baked in. Americans care about this. They think there's something fishy and suspicious here, and they think it's about Trump. So to me, then it's a question of, so what? What does that mean in terms of politics? And this is where I think there has to be a little bit of a shift. It can't only ever be about Donald Trump, because, there will be people that say, I really care about this, but I care more about Donald Trump, just like all those right-wing influencers. But a story about House Republicans and Republican elected leaders engaging in a massive cover-up for sexual abusers and ignoring Trump, it'll come back around. It'll boomerang back to him. But ultimately, in order to propel this story, more individual threads like this have to come out. And as John noted, more of those threads, when they get exposed, have to be pulled. And the only way to do that is to now start to build more political pressure on all of those people covering it up. And instead of it just being about them protecting Trump, which they are, they're also protecting this really dark, dirty secret and helping all these abusers get away with it.
Well, here's the other piece of our politics that's been cemented in as a narrative, that the reason Mitch McConnell doesn't object to tariffs, which he's never been for in his 170 years in the Senate, is because he's afraid. He fears real violence. The reason the Republicans who were doctors didn't oppose RFK is because they're afraid of real violence. Well, here's someone who's sort of adjacent to the most here's Nick Fuentes, a white nationalist, talking about what he's going to do to Mike Johnson because of his BS about Trump being an informant.
We're just being lied to. They're just insulting us. How can you take this? How can anybody take this? And I was mad about it yesterday. I was pissed. Because like I said yesterday, they for 5 years gassed up and gaslighted the base on Epstein disclosure. They said they would do it. They did the binder photo op. Now they're telling us we're traitors if we still want it. Then, not even 24 hours later, they say, well, Trump was named throughout the files, but it's because he was an undercover cop. Who believes that? Do they expect us to believe that? Like, what is even the goal there? Do they think we're going to buy that? And who is that for?